So the work problems from worksheet 7.6, just rational equations, which means fractions with the variable in the fraction. That's all that means. Fractions with the variable in the fraction. In the denominator, I should say. Variable in the denominator. So rational equations, they're just fractions. And you look at this and go, oh man, what a hassle. Yes, there's lots of ways to approach this. As always, lots and lots and lots of ways to do this. One person might say, this is not my recommendation. One person might say, oh, well, I'm going to get a common denominator here. So I would have 5x plus 30 over 6x squared minus, let me see, my common denominator needs to be 6x squared. So 6x squared, so that'd be x squared equals x minus 2 over 6x. And now I can combine them. So my common denominator is 6x squared. So I have 5x plus 30 minus x squared is equal to x minus 2 over 6x. So that's where we are now. I got a common denominator. Now, once you do that, by the way, I repeat, this is not my recommendation. I'm going to show you a shorter way to do this. Now we can do good old cross multiplication like we've been doing since we were little kids. Good old cross multiplication. So we can have 6x times, and I'm going to change the order here, negative x squared plus 5x plus 30 equals to 6x squared times x minus 2 like that. Have I ever mentioned this is not what I recommend? Good, because this is not what I recommend, but I'm going to show it to you anyway in case somebody insists that this is the best way to do it. I don't know who would do that. 6x cubed minus 12x squared. I think I did that right. I think everything's right. So, oh my gosh, this is pretty horrible. So I'm going to move everything over here. So negative 12x cubed, add this plus 42x squared plus 180x equals 0. So let's start cleaning up. First thing we can factor out is can I factor out that 12? Can't factor out the complete 12, can I? What a hassle. What a hassle, man. Can't factor out the complete 12. I can take out a 6. So I would take out a negative 6x. So if I factor out negative 6, that leaves me a 2x squared minus 7x minus 30, like that. So now we're going to factor. This is not my recommendation at all. So now we got to factor this. So I need to get 30. So let me see, 2x, 5. And let me see, that could be a 6. So that would be the negative 30, negative 14, and 5. So negative 12 and 5. I mean, negative 12, positive 5, make that negative 7. So I have negative 6x equals 0. 2x plus 5 equals 0. X minus 6 equals 0. So x is equal to 0. X is equal to negative 5 halves. X is equal to 6. Yay, I'm finished. There's my 3 answers. That was a mess. Oh, that was horrible. But then somebody says, wait a second. I better check my work because we always do that anyway. So if I plug 6 into the original function, it would check. The first thing, the main thing we need to check for, I would say, first thing, main thing, is he going to make a 0 in the denominator? Is he going to exist? Well, if I plug 6 in here, it won't make zeros in the denominator, so it's probably going to work. And if you check it, 6 does work. If you check the negative 5 halves, doesn't make 0 in the denominator, it does check. If you plug 0 in, if you plug 0 in here, you get 0 in the denominator. It doesn't check. So we need to be sure to check our answers, okay? But like I said, I do not recommend that method. Here's a shorter way to do it. Okay, ever since you're a little kid, you've been hating on fractions because they're a bit of a hassle. So why don't we do this? Let's multiply by the least common denominator to clean it up. So who's our least common denominator? Let me see, we got 6x, 6x squared. So it looks like 6x squared is going to be our LCD. So if I say 6x squared, and I hate having to write all these steps, but I'll do it one time. 6x squared times 6x squared minus 6x squared over 6 equals 6x squared times x minus 2 over 6x. So let me see, the 6x squared. Let me see, that completely cancels. So I have 5x plus 30. Let me see what happens. The 6 completely cancels. So I have negative x squared equals, let me see, the 6 cancels and one of the x's cancel. So now I've got x squared minus 2x. So once again, so negative x squared, we're going to negative 2x squared. We're going to put everything on the same side. So negative 2x squared plus 7x plus 30 is equal to 0. And like I've said before, I like the lead coefficient to be positive. So I'm just going to multiply through by negative 1. So what do you, whoops, I forgot the 2 again. 2. So 2x plus 5, x minus 6. So we end up with the same two answers, except we didn't, in this case, we didn't end up with any extraneous answers. So this is my recommendation. Multiply by the LCD. Multiply by the LCD. And then somebody says, no way. What if they get a lot more complicated? Because they will. They will get a lot more complicated, like this. And you're going to be like, uh-oh, this is really ugly looking. We're probably going to have to do some factoring here. Okay, let's do some factoring. How convenient. That factors to a plus 5, a plus 6 equals 1 over. See, I can factor out a 2, and then I get the same thing again. A plus 5, a plus 6 plus 1 over a plus 5. So who's my LCD? Well, a plus 5, a plus 6, a plus 5, a plus 5, and that one's got a 2. So unfortunately, my LCD is going to be 2, a plus 5, a plus 6. Okay. So if I take this LCD and multiply it by this guy, everything cancels except the 2. If I take the LCD and multiply it by this guy, everything cancels, so the only thing left is the 1. If I take the LCD and multiply by this guy, the x plus 5 cancels, so the 2 and the a plus 6 are left over. Now we just have a little Mickey Mouse problem here we have to clean up. So let's see what happens. 2 is equal to 1 plus 2a plus 12. So 2 is equal to 13 plus 2a. So 2a is equal to negative 11. So a is equal to a negative 11 halves. So a little bit of a hassle. And we would check our work. We would plug in that. First thing I would check, does it make 0 in the denominator? If it doesn't make 0 in the denominator, then chances are it's okay. If I went through all the trouble and plugged it in, you would see it's okay. So this is where it gets to be a little bit more complicated. But all I got to do is multiply that by the LCD. If you look at the worksheets, the practice problems, and look at my answer key, all I did was multiply by the LCD every time. Groovy.